Let's discuss this and more with the former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, President Trump is publicly breaking with Israel, saying there is, quote, real starvation happening in Gaza right now. But as you know, the Israeli government is denying that. Are the Prime Minister and other top officials in Israel being honest with the rest of the world about the very desperate situation in Gaza right now? This is clearly a crisis. So many Palestinians, including children, are starving.
Well, it's clearly a tragic situation, and it's one that's not new. The UN has been warning about starvation in Gaza, Wolf, since exactly October 12th, 4 days after the October 7th, 2023 attack. So we hear again and again and again about starving Gazans, but we actually don't know the degree to which Gazans are really hungry. It's true. The Israeli government, not just the Israeli government, the Israeli army has said again and again that there is enough food going in. They even count the caloric intake per capita of every Gazan, saying there's enough. The problem is the distribution, that the UN will not distribute the food. And then if it is distributed, Hamas will either capture the food, it will sell the food, it will give it to its own fighters, and it will kill those people who are trying to distribute it. So it is a hellish situation. At the end of the day, I think that Israel has to accept a large degree of responsibility and do whatever it can to relieve the situation. I'm not a spokesman for the government, but I will tell you, since the very beginning of this war, I have strongly advocated for flooding Gaza, flooding it with humanitarian aid and medical assistance, precisely to prevent this type of situation from emerging, because there has to be a solution.
The Israeli military's pause in fighting in recent days, especially in some of the populated areas of Gaza, is doing little to address the fears about the growing hunger crisis. The United Nations Emergency Relief Coordinator now says that while the pauses are progress, more aid is desperately needed. Why isn't Israel doing more right now?
I think Israel is actually doing much more than it has been doing. And that, the IDF, the Israeli army, is saying that there's enough food going in. It's just not being distributed. And the distribution has to be greatly improved. And even these distribution centers that have been set up with an American company have to be better organized and guarded, which is a major problem. Just simply security. I've spoken to Israeli soldiers who have come out of Gaza who have been around these distribution areas, and they say they can actually see Hamas terrorists going over and stabbing people who are online to get food, and then later claiming that those same Palestinians were shot by Israeli soldiers. This is the type of situation we're dealing there. We've seen the Hamas put up a picture of a woman with a supposedly starving baby, but it turns out that this child is suffering from some type of horrible genetic condition as well. So we don't know. I'm going to proceed on the assumption that there is a hunger situation, or an acute hunger situation in certain areas of Gaza, not in all of Gaza, and that this has to be addressed to the greatest degree possible by Israel in cooperation finally, and not adversity from the United Nations.
This week, Israel and the United States, for that matter, actually boycotted a United Nations meeting to try to promote the creation of a two-state solution in the Middle East, Israel and a new state of Palestine. If the Israeli government doesn't want that, why aren't they putting forth solutions of their own?
Yeah, well, you're going to have to ask somebody in the government. Just right now, a two-state solution, to my mind, is an oxymoron. The vast majority of Israelis, not only do they don't want it, they view it as an existential threat, a Palestinian state. And even the Palestinians don't want it. I don't even see any evidence that the Palestinians want a state in the West Bank or even in Gaza. Nobody knows who would run that state. Nobody knows what that state would look like, whether it be a jihadist state. Nobody knows. But there are other ways we can move forward. We can move forward through local autonomy, through what I call the Swiss cantonment system. There are other ways. It's a shame that everyone's beating their heads on this solution that people have been trying to implement now for well over 40 years without success. And the unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state by France and now by Great Britain, apparently, is totally ineffective. It's not going to change anything. There are 134 nations in the world that have already recognized the state of Palestine, and it hasn't advanced the creation of a state of Palestine one iota. It's also rather pathetic because the French and the British aren't the powers that they used to be. But the bottom line is it's tragic, Wolf. It's tragic for the Palestinians. The Hamas is going to conclude, I'm just going to hold on. The world thinks that Israel's starving the Palestinians. I'm getting a Palestinian state recognized by France and Britain. Why should I make conditions? Why should I make concessions around the negotiating table? And this is precisely the reason why Hamas has walked away from negotiations for a ceasefire. And the people who are going to suffer the most, Wolf, are not Israelis only. It's certainly the Palestinians.
The former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, thanks so much for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you.
And up